Hannah suggested I should move into a budget-friendly apartment since she thought my home-based activities didn't justify me living in the family house. She had just come back from the city, set on pushing me out to take over my spot in the home I shared with my in-laws. My work-from-home lifestyle wasn't understood by my in-laws, and now with Hannah's influence, even my husband, William, was plotting against me. They didn't seem to appreciate that I was the one footing the bills for the house's mortgage. The realization hit me hard. Why should I stay with people who constantly make me feel unwanted? If they were so eager for me to leave, then that's exactly what I would do. I had reached my limit of tolerance and, fueled by frustration, decided to transfer the mortgage responsibilities to them. Following my decision, I ended my marriage with William and exited the scene, unaware of the challenges they would face without me. My name is Amy William. My husband is 3 years my senior. Our paths crossed at work, but ours was not your usual workplace romance. William was employed by the janitorial service at my office. Life had dealt me a harsh blow, having lost both my parents in a short span. First, my father fell ill and was given a mere 5 months to live. During his care, my mother also succumbed to an illness. With their passing, I was left to navigate the world alone, without siblings or parents. The loss would hit me at unexpected moments, often bringing me to tears. Despite the pain, I masked my grief with smiles, especially at work. The day William and I first truly connected, I was lost in thought by a window, trying to hide my sorrow. Although we had acknowledged each other with nods before, we had never really talked. That day, William approached and checked in on me, noticing my somber mood. Opening up to him felt surprisingly easy, perhaps because he was somewhat of a stranger. Then William's empathy, when he learned about my parents, was a comfort. He shared his closeness with his own parents and understood my sense of loss. This exchange marked the beginning of our conversations and, eventually, our relationship outside of work. When we started dating, William introduced me to his parents. They were welcoming and understanding of my situation, offering me kindness and a place in their lives. Becoming close with William's family happened seamlessly and without a traditional proposal. We naturally transitioned into marriage. Post-wedding, William and I found a cozy apartment close to his parents and embarked on our new life together, recognizing the future we envisioned, which included potentially starting a family. I shifted careers to a remote role, allowing for more flexibility. Although I shared this significant change with William, it seemed he didn't fully grasp what it entailed. He knew I worked from home, but the nuances of my job were a mystery to him. Despite changing jobs, my income remained stable, so I took on the responsibility of covering our living expenses. William earned less, so we agreed he would save his earnings aside from occasional social outings. His financial contributions were minimal, as his social life was modest and inexpensive, mostly involving outings with me or friends. William was comfortable with me managing our finances, a setup that worked well for us. Working remotely offered numerous benefits, notably the ability to share unhurried meals with William. This was a luxury I wouldn't have had at my old job. Cooking had once been a simple affair for me, but now, eager to please William, I found joy in preparing more intricate meals. Our life together was tranquil and fulfilling. However, a few years into our marriage, we faced an unexpected crisis. A devastating fire destroyed William's parental home, erasing tangible memories and possessions. Thankfully, his parents were safe, but the loss was immense. They stayed with us temporarily, a time during which I sought to uplift them much like they had supported me through my own parents' loss. I took on additional household duties and made sure to cook comforting meals, all while managing my work. Despite our efforts to make them feel at home, William's parents were acutely aware of their dependence on us and expressed concerns about overstaying their welcome. It was clear they longed for independence, and normally, this situation led William and me to a significant decision. We would build a new home to accommodate all of us. This idea, though never explicitly discussed before, felt right given our circumstances. Anticipating future needs, I had been saving diligently, separate from William's savings. The timing seemed perfect to use these funds towards constructing a new home. We envisioned a home that could symbolize a new beginning for his parents while honoring the past. The original home, a charming wooden structure built by my great-grandfather, held many memories but was no longer practical. Our decision to build a new house was met with joy and gratitude from William's parents, marking the start of an exciting new chapter for all of us. This collaborative effort was a testament to our family's resilience and unity in the face of adversity. As William's parents aged, their health concerns grew, leading to numerous special requests for the new house we planned to build. William, eager to ensure their comfort, proposed several additional features. This, of course, drove the costs significantly higher than we initially planned. Despite the escalating expenses, I committed to these enhancements, believing in the long-term value of our future home. Around this time, I noticed a shift in dynamics. William began to assert to his parents, Samantha and Tyler, that he was the primary force behind the house's construction. They frequently expressed their gratitude to him, overlooking my financial contributions entirely. Despite the mortgage and ownership documents bearing my name and the down payment coming from my savings, it appeared William hadn't shared these details with his parents. His continuous claims led them to pressure me into showing gratitude towards him. My contribution wasn't about seeking acknowledgement from William, Samantha, or Tyler. I contributed more financially simply because I was in a position to do so, not for gratitude. However, William's failure to correct his parents' misperceptions, coupled with his jokes about supposed indebtedness to him, left me feeling deeply frustrated. I didn't demand William to disclose the full extent of my contributions, but I hoped he would at least stop diminishing my role. Yet he continued, emboldened perhaps by the house construction project. To my dismay, I discovered William was spreading falsehoods about his employment, claiming to work at the prestigious company I was associated with. While he did have business interactions with the company, the way he presented his involvement was misleading. This pattern of dishonesty and exaggerated self-importance eroded my trust in him and made interactions with his parents increasingly uncomfortable, as they seemed to favor him unconditionally. I had hoped that moving into our new home would alleviate these tensions. However, the opposite occurred. Once we settled in, the underlying issues intensified. William and his parents failed to grasp the legitimacy of my remote work, misinterpreting my home-based job as leisure. Complaints about my supposed idleness became more frequent, with insinuations that I should contribute more despite my financial support and ongoing work commitments. Their attitudes drove me to seek refuge outside our home, opting to work from cafes just to escape the constant snide remarks. This change in my work environment was a direct response to the growing discomfort and misunderstanding within my own home, highlighting the deepening divide between us. I continuously asked William to address his parents' misconceptions about my work. Although William might not fully grasp the nature of my job, it was my income that sustained our household, including his parents. All I wanted was for him to communicate the simple truth to them. However, William dismissed my concerns, suggesting I ignore their comments. Consequently, with the perception that I wasn't working, I was burdened with all the household chores, and his parents began to treat me like their personal assistant. Reaching my breaking point, I confronted them, expecting William's support in the moment of my distress. Contrarily, William rebuked me for speaking out and shockingly presented me with divorce papers as a threat to conform to their expectations. William's unprecedented anger and ultimatum left me feeling powerless, leading me to reluctantly acquiesce to their demands. Following this incident, both William and his parents became distinctly indifferent towards me, with my only respite being the time spent working on my computer, immersing myself in my job to escape the harsh reality of my home life. During this tumultuous period, Hannah, William's sister, who had been living in the city, visited to see the new house and decided to extend her stay almost immediately. William's parents began to air grievances about me to her, criticizing me for spending too much time isolated with my computer, insinuating I was living off their generosity without contributing. They mocked my dedication to my work, questioning its validity, and jesting that I must be a nerd for being so engaged with technology, all while suggesting I did nothing meaningful. Their conversations took a more demeaning turn as they speculated about my past role, incorrectly suggesting I had been a cleaner at William's company. Further fueled by William's deceitful claims about his employment, this inversion of our realities, with William positioned as a high-ranking employee and me as a menial worker, was a narrative he had crafted, leaving me isolated and discredited. When Hannah announced her decision to permanently move in after quitting her job in the apparel industry, citing a desire for a change and the allure of starting a business from our new, more luxurious home, my situation worsened. Her decision was met with enthusiasm from William and his parents, further marginalizing me in my own home. I was relegated to eating alone, preparing meals for a family that no longer included me at their table, all while juggling my work responsibilities. This arrangement persisted until Hannah's departure date, when she unexpectedly declared her intention to stay indefinitely, finding the house comfortable and seeing an opportunity to reset her career. Her announcement was celebrated by William's parents and William himself, who took pride in the praises for the house, further solidifying my position as an outsider within my own home. Despite Hannah's recent decision to stay with us permanently, there was no room specifically allocated for her. Until her announcement, she had been occupying the guest room, but her permanent residence required a more permanent solution, and our house lacked additional space. After spending 2 weeks with us, Hannah boldly stated her expectation for me to vacate. "I'll live here, so you should leave," she declared confidently, suggesting that my home-based lifestyle didn't merit a place in such a desirable home. She insisted I should find a less expensive living arrangement elsewhere. Samantha, aligning with Hannah, dismissed my attempts to explain the validity of my work, leaving me defenseless against their groundless judgments. The assertion that I was unproductive simply. Because I worked from home, there was a tactic used to pressure me unfairly. Frustration was mounting within me as William passively observed the unfolding drama, neither defending the truth nor correcting misconceptions. I had remained silent up to this point, mindful of William's feelings, but the situation compelled me to assert the truth openly. I informed Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah that the house was registered in my name, the mortgage payments were my responsibility, and the initial down payment was sourced from my savings without any financial contribution from William. William's reaction to my confrontation was panic followed by defensive aggression and attempts to discredit me further, indicating his desperation to maintain a facade. Despite my clear explanations, his parents and Hannah remained unwavering in their support for him, labeling me the liar. The realization dawned on me that leaving this toxic environment might be the only way to preserve my sanity, especially since they erroneously believed William could sustain the financial burden of the household. Resolved to extricate myself from this untenable situation, I reconsidered the divorce papers William had previously brandished as a threat. The prospect of transferring the house's title to William initially seemed to please him immensely, as he likely envisioned gaining full ownership without understanding the accompanying responsibilities. However, the process of changing the mortgage into his name revealed William's aversion to the complexities involved. He naively thought it was a mere matter of signing his name, unaware of the legal and financial implications. Reluctantly, I accompanied a clueless William to the bank and a legal advisor for the necessary consultations. Throughout, William's attention was fixated on his smartphone, showing interest only when it came time to sign the documents, eagerly inquiring if this would officially transfer the house into his name. Upon my confirmation, he signed with enthusiasm, oblivious to the realities of his new obligations. Once the legal procedures were finalized, the house, along with its mortgage responsibilities, would indeed be transferred to William. I had painstakingly explained the situation multiple times, yet it seemed only the full weight of his new role as the sole proprietor would reveal the true extent of his misconceptions and the financial obligations he had underestimated. I couldn't help but marvel at William's reaction. Even after transferring the house and mortgage into his name and proceeding with the divorce, he jubilantly shared the news with Samantha, Hannah, and Tyler. It baffled me how they could still entertain the notion that William was employed by a prestigious company while viewing me as jobless. Observing this, I was struck by disbelief and a sense of liberation, knowing my next steps were clear. Following the transfer, William planned a trip to celebrate the divorce, instructing me to vacate the house during their absence. They embarked on a lavish trip abroad, expecting me to disappear quietly. Instead, I took decisive action. During those 12 days, I sold all the furniture and appliances I had brought into our shared home and packed my personal items. Simultaneously, finalizing the sale of a luxurious condo on the top floor of a high-rise building, a place I had stumbled upon seemingly waiting for me, priced at around $8 million. The timing felt serendipitous, and I seized the opportunity to make it mine. The 3 years spent in turmoil with William's family had been taxing, but the prospect of starting anew in my condo filled me with excitement. Unbeknownst to them, I had a substantial inheritance from my parents, which I had wisely invested over the years. These investments flourished, significantly increasing my wealth. I had once dreamt of sharing this fortune with William and retiring early together, but I kept this secret, a decision I now regarded as fortuitous. Their disregard for financial prudence had been a painful lesson, reinforcing my choice to keep my assets hidden. Moving to the condo allowed me to design a living space that truly reflected my tastes, free from the influence and criticism of William and his family. This new home became my sanctuary where I could work in peace, surrounded by objects and memories I cherished, with no one to undermine my lifestyle. I looked forward to exploring new hobbies like joining a cooking class or yoga studio and embracing a tranquil life. The call from William came unexpectedly upon their return, his voice filled with shock and indignation upon discovering the absence of the furniture and appliances. He demanded their return, not understanding that every item was purchased with my money, thus within my right to sell or move as I saw fit. I felt no obligation to leave behind any part of my life with them, not wanting to retain any ties to a household that had brought me so much distress. Now in my new condo, I was truly free, ready to enjoy a life of peace and fulfillment far removed from the turmoil of the past. When I informed William that the items were already sold, he persisted, demanding I repurchase them. I countered, suggesting that someone with a job at a major corporation like him should have no trouble buying new ones. With that, I ended the call, ignoring his subsequent attempts to contact me. Time moved on, and 2 months after William and his family's return from their celebratory trip abroad, I had fully embraced my new life, forming friendships with my neighbors and enjoying various activities, such as cooking classes recommended by a friend living just below my condo. One day, as I returned from a class, William called, curious yet cautious. I answered, wondering if there was a lingering issue with the paperwork. William's voice, filled with panic and confusion, echoed the chaos of their return. He was upset over discovering the monthly loan repayment amount of $6,100. Confused, he questioned why the loan wasn't settled, not comprehending the financial responsibilities that now lay with him. Despite the bank's thorough explanation, which he had ignored, William's disbelief that the mortgage wasn't paid off revealed his lack of attention during the transfer process. I vividly remember sitting beside him, observing his disinterest. Now he frantically sought a way out of his new obligations, but it was too late. He had already signed the mortgage over to his name. William's realization that he was solely responsible for the loan repayments marked a turning point. His assumption that I would be struggling post-divorce was baseless. I had managed our finances throughout our marriage, ensuring a comfortable life for both of us. Reflecting on the past 5 months, I pondered over William's lifestyle with his family, likely living beyond their means under Hannah's influence, until the reality of the mortgage hit them. William's predicament seemed distant to me now, as if belonging to a stranger. Indifferent to their financial woes, I took a moment to enlighten William about my current situation, living comfortably in a luxurious condo thanks to my successful investments. His silence on the phone was telling, and after that revelation, his calls ceased, leading me to believe he had somehow coped with this situation. Unexpectedly, William reached out again, reigniting a connection I thought had been severed. Despite our history, his reemergence was met with a sense of detachment on my part, as our lives had diverged significantly since the divorce. My focus remained on my newfound independence and tranquility, far removed from the complexities and turmoil of my previous life with William and his family. When William reached out again, I couldn't help but wonder what urgent matter had prompted his call this time. It turned out to be a crisis. Their house was in the process of being seized. In the background, I could hear the anxious voices of his family, Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah, all in a state of desperation. William, in a voice filled with panic, pleaded for my help. An enforcement officer was at their doorstep, explaining that the house was set for auction, and they were on the verge of eviction. William seemed genuinely surprised when I inquired about warning letters, suggesting they hadn't received any. However, upon further questioning, he sheepishly admitted that such letters might have been overlooked intentionally, having arrived and been opened without any action taken. Each family member, it seemed, had assumed someone else was managing the loan repayments. As the reality of their situation sank in, with a foreclosure looming and the full loan amount demanded immediately, I couldn't help expressing my frustration at William's apparent hopelessness. I suggested pooling their savings as a potential solution, only to be met with the bleak reality that such an option was off the table. Samantha and Tyler had depleted their savings on lavish travels, banking on the future support of their son, who they believed was thriving professionally. Hannah, on the other hand, had not left her job by choice, but was fired for embezzling funds, a far cry from the successful city life she claimed to have led. The financial facade they maintained crumbled, revealing a dire situation. William had exhausted his savings, living under the pretense of a lucrative job, while his family indulged in extravagance, all under the false assumption that their financial stability was secured. The accumulation of these poor decisions led to the inevitable seizure of their home. In the midst of this chaos, William made a desperate proposition for all of us to live together in my luxury condo, as if our divorce had not severed our legal and emotional ties. My response was firm and unequivocal. I refused. Our divorce marked the end of our shared paths, and my new life in the condo was a sanctuary built from my independence and success, far removed from the turmoil and deceit that had characterized our marriage. As the saga unfolded, my resolve hardened, especially after hearing my ex-in-laws, Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah, lambasting me with insults in the background of the call with my ex-husband, William. Their words, ranging from calling me heartless to a scammer and a thief, only solidified my decision. Their bitterness and blame-shifting, a direct consequence of their own decisions and actions, showed no signs of self-reflection or remorse. Eventually, their argument turned inward, spiraling into a cacophony of blame among themselves. It was at this moment I chose to sever all ties, quietly ending the call and ensuring no further contact by blocking William's number. A few days later, a newspaper headline caught my eye, detailing a father-son altercation that escalated to the point of police intervention. Immediately raising suspicions about William and his father, confirmation came through a mutual acquaintance, revealing the dispute did indeed involve William and his family, stemming from tensions that boiled over after my last conversation with them. The altercation led to their arrest and minor injuries for all involved, alongside a police warning. This incident not only bruised their physical well-being, but also William's professional reputation, as rumors of the fight spread through his workplace, leaving him in a precarious position. Following the fight, the house was sold, and the family relocated to a dilapidated apartment, a stark contrast to their previous living conditions. Their new life, marred by infestations and neighborly complaints, marked a significant downgrade. Hannah's history of embezzlement further complicated their attempts to stabilize, making it nearly impossible for her to secure employment. Thus, the family's financial burden fell solely on William, who, despite his efforts to locate me, found his inquiries fruitless thanks to the discretion of our mutual friends and the vigilance of my condo's concierge service. This chapter of my life, filled with turmoil and strife, felt conclusively closed as I embraced my new existence in the luxury condo. Far removed from the chaos, my days were now filled with hobbies, work, and the peaceful solitude of single life. The decision to move forward unencumbered by the past or thoughts of marriage was not just a choice, but a declaration of my newfound independence and contentment.
"Don't want mommy, mommy bad," Emma screamed, her tiny face contorted with fear as I reached to hug her. My 3-year-old daughter pressed herself against my mother-in-law's legs, trembling. The rejection hit me like a physical blow. "See? Patricia," my mother-in-law smiled smugly. "She knows who really loves her. Don't force yourself on her when she's clearly scared of you." My name is Olivia Parker, and 6 months ago, my daughter stopped loving me. It happened so gradually, I almost didn't notice at first. Small things. Emma not running to greet me after work, refusing to let me read her bedtime stories, crying when I tried to hold her. I told myself it was just a phase, that toddlers go through periods of preferring one caregiver over another. But this felt different. This felt orchestrated. "Maybe if you weren't always working, she'd remember who her mother is," Patricia would say, stroking Emma's hair while my daughter clung to her. Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. I'm a pediatric nurse working 3 12-hour shifts per week. My husband James works in it, and his unpredictable schedule meant we needed help with childcare. Patricia had volunteered, moving into our guest room temporarily after her lease ended. That was 8 months ago. The changes in Emma started shortly after. Tonight, as I stood in our living room watching my daughter recoil from my touch, something inside me snapped. "Emma, sweetheart, it's mommy. You used to love when I hugged you, remember?" "No," Emma shrieked. "Grandma says you're evil. You hurt me." The room went silent. James, who had been absorbed in his laptop, finally looked up. "What did you just say, princess?" Patricia quickly scooped Emma up. "She's tired, aren't you, sweetie?" All this drama is upsetting her. I'll put her to bed. Like hell you will, I said, my voice shaking. Emma, what does Grandma say about Mommy? But Patricia was already hurrying upstairs, whispering in Emma's ear. I turned to James, who looked uncomfortable. Did you hear what she said? Your mother is poisoning our daughter against me. Liv, come on, James sighed. Mom's been a huge help with Emma. Maybe if you spent more time with her instead of picking fights. 3 shifts a week, James. I work 3 shifts a week to help support our family. Your mother's turned our daughter against me in the time I'm gone. He shook his head. You're being paranoid. Mom loves Emma. She'd never. I didn't let him finish. Instead, I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made earlier that day. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but I'd forgotten my phone in Emma's room during nap time. The audio capture was crystal clear. Sweet girl, you know Mommy doesn't really love you, right? Patricia's voice crooned. She leaves you all the time because she doesn't want you. But Grandma's here. Grandma's your real Mommy now. Remember what I told you? Mommy is evil. She wants to take you away from Grandma. James's face went pale as the recording continued, capturing his mother methodically turning my child against me. When it ended, he sat there in stunned silence. That's not possible, he stammered. Mom wouldn't? I have more, I said quietly. I started recording after Emma had a meltdown last week when I tried to take her to the park. I knew something wasn't right. I played another clip, this one from 2 days ago. Good girl, telling Mommy no. You don't want her hugs. They're bad hugs, remember? Grandma's hugs are safe. Mommy just pretends to love you. Stop, James whispered. Please stop. Footsteps on the stairs made us both look up. Patricia stood there, her face a mask of concern. Emma's finally asleep, poor thing. Really, Olivia, you need to learn to respect her boundaries when she says no too. The sound of her voice, that fake sweetness, made my blood boil. Like you respected boundaries when you systematically taught my daughter to fear me? Patricia's eyes widened in fake innocence. I don't know what you're talking about. James, your wife is obviously having some sort of episode. Save it, Mom, James cut her off. We heard the recordings. The change in Patricia's demeanor was instant. The sweet smile vanished, replaced by something harder, colder. You're recording me? In my own home? This is our home, I corrected her, where you've been systematically abusing our daughter by turning her against me. Abuse? Patricia laughed, but there was an edge of panic in it. I've done nothing but love that child while you gallivant off to work, leaving her with virtual strangers. I'm her mother. A mother who's never here. Someone needed to step up to give her real love. Get out. James's voice was quiet but firm. Pack your bags and get out of our house. Patricia stared at him, mouth opening and closing like a fish. You can't be serious. After everything I've done for you, for Emma. Everything you've done? James stood up, his hands shaking. You've traumatized my daughter and emotionally abused my wife. Get out. I watched my mother-in-law's face contort with rage. Fine, she spat, but don't think this is over. Emma needs me. You'll see, she won't survive without me here. As Patricia stormed upstairs to pack, I sank onto the couch, tears finally falling. James sat beside me, his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have seen it. Should have believed you. It's not your fault, I said, though part of me wanted to scream that yes, it was. He should have noticed, should have stopped it sooner. But right now, we had bigger concerns. James, what she's done to Emma. Our baby needs help. He nodded, pulling out his phone. I'll start researching child psychologists tonight. We'll find someone who specializes in parental alienation. A crash from upstairs made us both jump. Then came Emma's terrified scream, Grandma, want Grandma. As we raced upstairs, I knew this was just the beginning. Getting Patricia out of our house was the first step, but undoing the damage she'd done to our daughter, that would be the real battle. And I was ready to fight. It took 3 stressful days and dozens of phone calls to find the right child psychologist. We finally found Dr. Sarah Martinez, who was kind and gentle. She had experience helping kids who had been emotionally manipulated. Her office was calm and cozy, filled with toys and soft colors. It felt like a safe place, unlike our home lately. The past few days had been awful. Emma had been having more tantrums since Patricia left. She refused to eat anything I made or let me help her get dressed or brush her teeth. Every time she pushed me away, it broke my heart. During our first session, Dr. Martinez sat near Emma, who was playing quietly with a doll, sitting as far away from me as she could. Has Grandma hurt you, sweetheart? Dr. Martinez asked gently. Emma held the doll tightly and replied, Grandma loves me. Mommy hurts. Her words sounded practiced and made my chest tighten with pain. How does Mommy hurt you? Dr. Martinez asked softly. Emma looked confused. I don't know, but Grandma said. Dr. Martinez nodded and wrote in her notebook. What else did Grandma say about Mommy? As Emma repeated the awful things Patricia had told her, I squeezed James's hand so tightly it hurt. Everything became clear. Patricia had been slowly turning Emma against me. Mommy leaves because she doesn't want me, Emma said. Grandma says only bad mommies leave. Do you remember doing fun things with Mommy? Dr. Martinez asked. Like going to the park or reading books. Emma hesitated. I don't know. That's because your mother-in-law has replaced your happy memories with fake ones, Dr. Martinez told us later, after Emma fell asleep. This kind of manipulation is common in cases like this. James's voice shook as he asked, How do we fix it? It will take time, but she's still young, Dr. Martinez said. We can help her, but we have to start now. She gave us a plan, therapy for Emma twice a week, family sessions, and steps to rebuild trusts. She also warned us to keep records in case we needed to go to court. Your mother-in-law's behavior counts as psychological abuse, she said, and because of her threats about Emma not surviving without her, we have to protect your family legally. That night, while James started paperwork for a restraining order, my phone buzzed with texts from Patricia. Emma cried for me all night, didn't she? You're cruel, keeping her from the only real mother she's known. She'll never love you again. I made sure of that. I blocked her, but her words stayed in my mind. What if she was right? What if I'd already lost my daughter? The next morning, I took a day off work to follow Dr. Martinez's advice. Just be near Emma without forcing anything. I sat on the floor while she played with her toys. After an hour, she held out a teddy bear. Bear is hungry, she said. My heart jumped. It was the first time she talked to me in months. Would Bear like a pretend sandwich? I asked. Emma nodded but quickly looked away, like she remembered she shouldn't talk to me. But it was something. A start. Later that day, Patricia showed up without warning. James was busy in his office, and Emma was asleep upstairs. I opened the door before she could ring the bell. You need to leave, I said firmly. I will not, she snapped, trying to push past me. Emma needs me. You're filling her head with lies. That's exactly what you did to her, I said, standing in her way. We have recordings. A professional confirmed what you did to Emma. She laughed, but I saw fear in her eyes. No one will believe you, she sneered. I'm her grandmother. I only ever loved her. You only ever loved yourself, James said, suddenly behind me, filming with his phone. The restraining order is being filed today. Leave or we'll call the police. Patricia's face twisted with anger. After everything I did, she was better off with me. But then we heard police sirens. One of our neighbors had called them. As the officers arrived, Patricia completely lost control. She's my baby, she screamed. You can't keep her from me. Emma, Grandma's here. The police took her away as she shouted and struggled. I was crying. James held me tightly, both of us shaken. Then a small voice from the stairs caught our attention. Mommy. Emma stood there in her pajamas, scared and confused. Did Grandma make scary screams? She asked. I nodded gently. Yes, sweetheart, but you're safe now. Daddy and I will keep you safe. She walked down the stairs slowly. Grandma said, but she was scary. You're not scary, Mommy. It was just a small sign, but it gave me hope. That night, for the first time in months, Emma let me tuck her into bed. Can you read me a story? She whispered, like before. I opened her favorite book with tears in my eyes. It would take time to heal, but in that moment I knew our bond wasn't lost. It was still there, waiting to grow strong again. 6 months of intensive therapy transformed our family. Dr. Martinez's gentle but firm approach helped Emma slowly untangle the web of lies Patricia had woven. Each small victory, a spontaneous hug, a shared laugh, a love you, Mommy, felt like a miracle. The breakthrough came during a therapy session when Emma was playing with dolls. She had the mommy doll and baby doll acting out a scene. Mommy has to go help sick children, Emma narrated, making the mommy doll walk away. Then she paused, her face scrunching in thought. But she comes back, because she loves baby. Dr. Martinez caught my eyes smiling. Emma was finally beginning to understand that my work didn't mean abandonment. That love could exist even when we weren't physically together. That's right, Emma, Dr. Martinez encouraged. Can you tell us more about what mommy does at work? She helps sick babies get better, Emma said proudly. Like when I had an owie, and mommy made it stop hurting. The memory she referenced was from before Patricia's interference, a simple scraped knee that I bandaged. But it was her first clear, positive memory of me that she'd articulated since the alienation began. I fought back tears as Emma continued playing, now having the mommy and baby dolls hug and laugh together. James squeezed my hand, his own eyes wet. The legal proceedings against Patricia moved forward. The recordings, combined with Dr. Martinez's professional documentation and Emma's eventual testimony through play therapy, built an insurmountable case. The restraining order became permanent and Patricia faced charges of child psychological abuse. One evening, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Why did Grandma make me scared of you? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes, sweetheart, people do wrong things because they're hurting inside. Grandma, she forgot that mommies and children need each other. She tried to keep all your love for herself. Emma thought about this, hugging her favorite teddy bear. But my love isn't just for one person, right? I can love you and Daddy and my friends. That's exactly right, I smiled, my heart swelling. Love grows bigger when we share it. She reached for me then, wrapping her small arms around my neck. I love you most, Mommy. The healing wasn't just in our immediate family. James had to confront the painful reality of his mother's actions and work through his own therapy to process the betrayal. Our extended family, initially skeptical of the situation, came around after seeing the evidence and witnessing Emma's transformation back to her happy, loving self. The final therapy session with Dr. Martinez felt like a graduation. Emma bounced into the office, immediately pulling out her favorite toys to show how mommy and baby spent the day together. The change in her is remarkable, Dr. Martinez noted. She's secure in her attachment again, able to distinguish truth from manipulation. You've all done incredible work. As if to prove her point, Emma ran over and climbed into my lap, something that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. Mommy, can we get ice cream after? To celebrate. Later, watching Emma devour her chocolate sundae, bits of ice cream smeared across her smiling face, I felt overwhelming gratitude. We'd come so close to losing her, not physically, but emotionally. Patricia's poisonous influence could have destroyed our bond forever. What are you thinking about? James asked, wiping Emma's face with a napkin. How lucky we are, I replied. How strong our daughter is. Emma looked up at us, her face serious. Mommy, are you going to work tomorrow? Yes, baby. 3 sick children need my help. She nodded, then smiled. That's okay. You always come back, and then we can have more ice cream. James laughed. Maybe not ice cream every time. But hugs, Emma declared. Lots and lots of hugs. Always, I promised, pulling her close. All the hugs you want, forever. That night, long after Emma was asleep, I stood in her doorway watching her peaceful face. The fear and confusion that had haunted her expressions for so long were gone, replaced by the innocent serenity of childhood. Patricia's last attempt to contact us had been a letter, filled with justifications and blame. We turned it over to our lawyer, unopened. She wasn't a part of our story anymore. Our family had emerged stronger, our bonds tested but unbroken. Emma's capacity to heal, to love again despite the trauma inflicted on her young mind, amazed me every day. As I closed her door softly, I whispered the words that had become our nightly ritual. Sweet dreams, my brave girl. Mommy loves you to the moon and back. From her bed came the sleepy reply, love you more, Mommy. And in those 4 simple words lay all the victory we needed. She can't even walk, Your Honor. How can she possibly raise a child? My mother-in-law's voice echoed through the courtroom, each word cutting deeper than the last. Look at her, bound to that wheelchair. My granddaughter deserves better. I sat there, my hands gripping my wheelchair's armrests so tightly my knuckles turned white. Beside me, my husband Thomas squeezed my shoulder, his touch grounding me as Margaret, his mother, continued her theatrical performance. My name is Olivia Chen Martinez, and at 32, I found myself fighting to keep custody of my own daughter because my mother-in-law decided my disability made me an unfit mother. Mrs. Martinez, the judge interrupted, her voice sharp. Are you suggesting that people with disabilities are incapable of parenting? Margaret straightened her designer blazer, her perfectly manicured hand gesturing dramatically toward me. I'm saying my 8-year-old granddaughter needs someone who can keep up with her. Emma's a talented athlete. She needs guidance, physical support. How can someone who can't even stand provide that? I thought about Emma, our brilliant daughter, probably sitting in the hallway with my sister, trying to understand why her grandmother was trying to take her away from me. The same grandmother who'd been undermining my parenting since the day Emma was born. Your Honor, my lawyer started, but I touched her arm, signaling I wanted to speak. May I address the court? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The judge nodded, and I wheeled myself forward. Years of navigating both physical and social barriers had taught me when to fight and how to do it effectively. This was one of those moments. I've been in this wheelchair since I was 16. I began, meeting Margaret's cold stare. A car accident took my ability to walk, but it gave me something else. Determination. I graduated top of my class in physical therapy, met my husband, and built a life that I'm proud of. When Emma was born, yes, I had to adapt. But that's what parents do, wheelchair or not. I pulled out my phone, pulling up a video I'd been saving for this moment. This is from last weekend's swim meet, I said, holding it up. The screen showed Emma diving into the pool, her strokes powerful and precise. I might not be able to swim with her, but I've never missed a practice. I'm the one who drives her to training at 5 a.m., the one who helps her with her technique from the poolside. The video switched to Emma climbing out of the pool, rushing to where I sat in my wheelchair. Mom, did you see? I beat my personal best. Her joy was contagious, her wet arms thrown around me without hesitation. The thing about being a parent with a disability, I continued, my voice growing stronger, is that you learn to focus on what you can do, not what you can't. I might not be able to run alongside Emma, but I've taught her something more valuable, that different doesn't mean less capable. Margaret scoffed, but I noticed her confidence wavering. She needs a normal mother, she insisted, but her voice had lost some of its conviction. Normal? Thomas finally spoke up, his quiet voice carrying across the courtroom. Mom, Olivia's not just a good mother, she's an extraordinary one. Emma's thriving, she's confident, compassionate, and determined, just like her mom. If you'd stop trying to tear our family apart, you might actually see that. The judge leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. Mrs. Chen Martinez, how does Emma feel about your disability? I smiled, remembering a conversation from just last week. She told her class during show and tell that her mom has superpowers, that my wheelchair is like a rocket ship, and that I taught her that obstacles are just opportunities to be creative. This is absurd, Margaret interrupted. She's manipulating everyone. Emma needs her mother, the judge cut in firmly. And from what I've seen, she has an excellent one. She turned to address Margaret directly. Mrs. Martinez, your petition for custody is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to attend sensitivity training regarding disabilities and family dynamics. The relief that flooded through me was overwhelming. Thomas wrapped his arm around my shoulders, and I could feel him trembling slightly. This isn't over, Margaret hissed as she gathered her designer purse. Emma deserves better. But it was over, at least this battle. As we left the courtroom, Emma ran toward us, her dark ponytail bouncing. Mom, Dad, she launched herself into my lap, her favorite spot since she was tiny. Can we get ice cream? I hugged her close, breathing in the familiar scent of chlorine and strawberry shampoo. Ice cream sounds perfect, champion. Looking at my daughter's smiling face, I knew Margaret was wrong. Emma didn't need a normal mother. She needed exactly what she had. A mother who could teach her that limitations are only barriers if you let them be. That different can be extraordinary, and that love doesn't require legs to stand on. What I didn't know then was that this was just the beginning of our story. Emma's determination, sparked by watching her wheelchair-bound mother navigate life with grace and grit, would lead her down a path none of us expected, not even Margaret with all her prejudices and plans. But that day, as we headed for ice cream, our little family unit intact and stronger for having weathered this storm, I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for my supportive husband, our amazing daughter, and yes, even for my wheelchair, because it had taught me that sometimes the biggest victories come after the hardest fights. But that day, as we headed for ice cream, our little family unit intact and stronger for having weathered this storm, I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for my supportive husband, our amazing daughter, and yes, even for my wheelchair, because it had taught me that sometimes the biggest victories come after the hardest fights. 7 years flew by in a whirlwind of chlorine-scented mornings and endless laps. Emma, now 15, had transformed from a promising swimmer into something extraordinary, but life had other plans for us. It happened during a routine training session. One moment Emma was gliding through the water, her strokes powerful and precise. The next she was clutching her leg, her face contorted in pain. "Mom," her cry echoed across the pool. I wheeled myself closer as the coach helped her out of the water. "I can't feel my legs properly." The diagnosis came like a thunderbolt. Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare disorder where the body's immune system attacks the nerves. The doctors said it was caught early, but Emma would need intensive therapy. There was a chance she might not swim competitively again. Margaret, of course, couldn't resist weighing in. "This is what happens when you let someone in a wheelchair raise a child," she spat during one of her uninvited hospital visits. "She probably inherited your weakness." I was about to respond when Emma's voice cut through the room, sharp and clear. "Grandma, stop. Mom's not weak. She's the strongest person I know." Margaret's face reddened. "Darling, I'm just saying." "You're just being cruel," Emma interrupted. "Mom taught me that disabilities don't define us, and now I get to prove it, just like she does every day." I watched my daughter, my heart swelling with pride. Even lying in a hospital bed, uncertain if she'd walk properly again, she showed more strength than Margaret had ever understood. The next few months were a battle of determination versus despair. Emma approached her physical therapy with the same intensity she'd given to swimming. I recognized the fire in her eyes. It was the same one I'd had after my accident. "Mom," she said one evening during a particularly tough session, "I want to try something different." She showed me a video on her phone. Paralympic swimming. Athletes with various disabilities cutting through the water with incredible speed and grace. "If I can't compete in regular competitions anymore," she continued, her eyes shining, "maybe I can find a new way to chase my dreams." That's when I saw it, the moment my daughter transformed her challenge into an opportunity. Just as I had done years ago, she was refusing to let circumstances define her limits. The journey wasn't easy. Some days, Emma could barely stand. Other days, she pushed too hard and ended up in tears of frustration. But she never quit. "You know what's funny, Mom?" she said during one of our late-night talks. "All those years watching you navigate the world from your wheelchair, you were actually teaching me how to adapt, how to find different ways to achieve my goals." Thomas supported us completely, attending every therapy session he could. Even some of Margaret's flying monkeys, her equally judgmental friends, had to admit that our family unit was stronger than ever. 1 year after her diagnosis, Emma entered her first Paralympic qualifying event. Her times weren't her personal best from before the syndrome, but they were impressive for her new category. Margaret showed up unexpectedly at the competition. "I came to support her," she said stiffly, avoiding my eyes. Despite everything, she's still my granddaughter. I watched as Emma took her position at the starting block. Her legs weren't as strong as they used to be, but her spirit was unshakable. When the whistle blew, she dove in with the same grace she'd always possessed. The crowd erupted as Emma touched the wall first. As she pulled herself out of the pool, her legs shaking but her smile radiant, I saw Margaret's expression change. It wasn't quite acceptance, but perhaps it was the beginning of understanding. "She swims like you used to," Margaret said quietly, surprising me. It was the first time she ever acknowledged my pre-accident life. "No," I replied, watching Emma wave to us from the podium. "She swims like herself. That's always been enough." Later that evening, as we celebrated Emma's victory, she hugged me tightly. "Thanks, Mom." "For what, sweetheart?" for showing me that sometimes life's biggest challenges become our greatest strengths. I looked at my daughter, now standing on slightly wobbly legs but with her head held high, and realized that sometimes our greatest achievements aren't in spite of our challenges, but because of them. Emma hadn't just adapted to her new reality. She'd embraced it, transformed it, and was using it to inspire others. As I watched her show her medal to Thomas, I couldn't help but think about how far we'd come from that day in the courtroom when Margaret tried to tear us apart. My daughter wasn't just surviving. She was thriving, turning what some might see as a tragedy into a triumph. And this was just the beginning of her journey. 3 years later, I was sitting in the stands at the Paralympic Games, my heart beating fast as Emma stepped up to the pool. Bright stadium lights made the water sparkle like gold. Thomas held my hand tightly, and to my surprise, Margaret sat beside us, holding a handmade sign that said, "Go Emma." At 18, our daughter was more than just a swimmer. She was a symbol of strength. Her journey from a competitive swimmer to a Paralympian had inspired many people facing their own struggles. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. In lane 4, representing the United States, Emma Chen Martinez. As the swimmers got ready, I saw something unexpected. Margaret was crying. I was so wrong, she whispered, her voice shaking. About everything. The starting buzzer sounded, and Emma dove into the water. Her swimming style had changed to match her new abilities, but it was still beautiful. Every movement was strong and full of purpose. The crowd cheered as the swimmers neared the final turn. Emma was tied with a champion from Australia. In that moment, I thought of every early morning practice, every therapy session, every tear and small victory that led to this point. "Come on, Emma," Margaret shouted, surprising all of us. She stood up, waving her sign. "Show them what you can do." Emma touched the wall. We held our breath as the results came up. CHN Martinez, first. NEUPARALYMPICRETR. Thomas jumped up and lifted me from my wheelchair in joy, spinning me around. Even Margaret was cheering and hugging everyone. After the medal ceremony, Emma came over, her gold medal shining. She hugged each of us, then stopped in front of Margaret. "Grandma," she said gently, "this medal isn't just about swimming. It's about learning that different doesn't mean less. Mom taught me that. Now I want to teach others." Margaret held Emma's hands, tears falling. "I was wrong about so much," she said. "Your mother, she didn't just raise you. She raised you to be amazing." That night, at a small family celebration in our hotel, Margaret pulled me aside. "Olivia," she said, her voice full of emotion, "I want to say sorry, not just for today, but for everything. Watching Emma in that pool helped me finally understand what you've been showing us all along. Real strength comes in many forms." I looked at her, not as someone who had judged me, but as someone who had finally changed. "Thank you," I said softly. "That means a lot." Emma's win didn't just change our family. She started speaking at schools, telling her story of hope and strength. At every event, she talked about where it all began, with a mother in a wheelchair who showed her that challenges could be overcome in new ways. One afternoon, about a month later, Emma came home and saw Margaret helping me make dinner, something we never imagined years ago. "Mom," Emma said, eyes shining, "I've been asked to coach young swimmers with disabilities. They want me to help start a Paralympic training program." I looked at my daughter, standing proudly despite her unsteady legs, and felt so proud. She hadn't just overcome her struggles, she was helping others do the same. Margaret smiled as she chopped vegetables. "You know, Emma, you got that from your mom. Turning hard things into something that helps others." Emma hugged us both. I had great teachers. All of you. As I watched my family, Thomas coming home from work, Emma showing Margaret her coaching plans, I realized that life's biggest victories often look different than we expect. Margaret once saw my wheelchair as a weakness, but it helped teach Emma the most important lesson. Real strength isn't about what you can or can't do. It's about how you face the hard times. And as Emma started this new chapter, guiding other athletes to believe in themselves, I knew our story was never about proving Margaret wrong. It was about proving that love, courage, and acceptance can turn any challenge into something truly extraordinary.